Welcome to episode 78 of Girl Take the Lead, and this is a soundbite. A soundbite is a short episode that builds on content that we had on a previous longer form episode, or it could be a quick inspiration. And I'm your host, Yo Kenny. Today's episode builds on our episode 26, where we explored the nature of patriotism and the emotions involved with that. And we called on Brené Brown and Susan Cain to help us. And in today's short episode, what I'll do is also go back to those great researchers and bring you some additional information about patriotism. So here we go. Also in episode 26, I had input from friends of mine, and one of them was in the Ukraine. I checked in with her recently just to see how things were going, and she mentioned how grateful she was. After thinking about that, I was struck with how strong an emotion gratitude is. And I went back, pulled my Atlas of the Heart book, and checked in with Brené Brown. And here's what she has to say. Gratitude is an emotion that reflects our deep appreciation for what we value, what brings meaning to our lives, and what makes us feel connected to ourselves and to others. I also wanted to check in with Susan Cain and be reminded about her definition for bittersweetness. And here's what she had to say. I've concluded that bittersweetness is not, as we tend to think, just a momentary feeling or event. It's also a quiet force, a way of being, a storied tradition. As dramatically overlooked as it is, brimming with human potential. It's an authentic and elevating response to the problem of being alive in a deeply flawed yet stubbornly beautiful world. Recently, I was reminded how little I knew about the women and their voices during the Revolutionary War. So I did a little research, and here's what I found. Let's start with Abigail Adams. Abigail Adams, the wife of John Adams, a founding father and later second president of the United States, exchanged numerous letters with her husband during the Revolutionary War. She expressed concerns about the limited rights and legal status of women, urging her husband to remember the ladies. And she wrote this in 1776, quote, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more gracious and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could, end quote. And there's Mercy Otis Warren, writer and playwright, who used her pen to support the cause of independence. She wrote political satires and plays that criticized British rule and promoted revolutionary ideals. And some notable African American women include Phyllis Wheatley, who was the first African American woman and second woman to publish a book of poems. She supported the Patriots during the American Revolution and wrote several letters to George Washington, ministers, and others on liberty and freedom for all. And let's also remember Sojourner Truth, an African American abolitionist and women's rights advocate. In her Ain't I a Woman speech in 1851, although given after the fight for independence, she highlights the strength and resilience of African American women, and I think all women in general. And while we don't have the voices recorded, we can all be inspired by the actions of some women, like Sybil Ludington, who at age 16 undertook a daring ride in 1777 to alert American militia of an impending British attack in Danbury, Connecticut. Or Anne Bailey, known as Mad Anne, who was a frontier scout during the Revolutionary War, and she traveled long distances too on horseback, delivering messages and intelligence. And Deborah Sampson Gannett, who cut her hair, bound her chest, put on men's clothes, and enlisted in the Continental Army and became part of the light infantry troops. She fought bravely and was discovered 17 months later when treated at a hospital. She was granted an honorable discharge. And Deborah Sampson Gannett wasn't the only woman to show leadership on the battlefield. There's also Molly Pitcher. Molly Pitcher, whose real name was Mary Ludwig Hayes Macaulay, became known as Molly Pitcher for her actions during the Battle of Monmouth in 1778. She provided water to soldiers, and when her husband was wounded, took his place at a cannon, assisting in the fight against the British. And there's also Margaret Corbin, who took up her husband's cannon duties. And we had some spies like Lydia Dara. She was a Quaker woman in Philadelphia and overheard some British military plans during the occupation of the city. And she relayed that information to George Washington, who was able to adjust his battle plan. And Nancy Hart, a frontier woman in Georgia. According to legend, she spied on British soldiers, captured several Tories, and even killed a British soldier who had threatened her family. And on that note, that's where I'll end today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. If you'd like to know more about our episode on patriotism, check out episode 26 of Girl Take the Lead podcast. Talk to you soon. Bye.